Good afternoon, everyone. How are y'all doing today? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Life Celebration by Franklin Grief Symposium for the month of. Good afternoon, everyone. How are y'all doing today? For the month of April. Today, April 27th. Today, our topic is identifying hidden grief, losses beyond death. And Dr. Cunningham is going to be on in a second to explain to us all what it entails with that. We do want to say glad to be back this month. Last month, Barry and I were out. We were attending a funeral of a friend of ours, and but we're back this week, and we are ready to get started. So Dr. Cunningham, I believe, is going to be up next. Hey, Dr. Cunningham.
Hey, Miss Marie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm going ahead and turning it over to you. Thank you.
Why, thank you. Well, good afternoon. Happy Sunday, everybody. This is Dr. Tonya Cunningham with a life celebration. We are here for our monthly grief symposium. As always, we are so excited to be with you all. And as Marie mentioned, again, she and Barry were out last month attending a funeral of a friend. So we're so excited to have Marie in the house with us. It's always good to have one of the Franklins with us as we share during our monthly grief symposium. So, those of you who are on Facebook, you're on YouTube, would you say something in the comment section? Let us know who you are. Would you say hi? Let us know where you are logging in from. So, I see you, Marcy. You're on Facebook. So glad to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time with us live, would you put a one in the comment section? If you're on YouTube or Facebook, put a one in the comment section so that our digital team can definitely recognize you and welcome you. Again, we don't take it lightly that you take time to be with us on this fourth Sunday afternoon. If you haven't done so already, there's an opportunity for you to sign in. You can go to the website, our website, A Life Celebration by Franklin. Again, you can go there, you can sign in so that we can definitely make note of you being here. And if you haven't done so already, you can also look under the description of each link, meaning will be listed on Facebook and YouTube for the handout as well as the assessment. There's a handout that I'm going to be going over today and an assessment you're going to have for homework. You can look under the description of the video today and you will find the link for you to be able to download that so you can have it. So before we jump into our subject today, you already know what I'm getting ready to ask. There's always a question I'm going to ask you before we start. And that question is, what have you done to take care of yourselves since I saw you last month? What is it that you have done to take care of yourself since I saw you last month? So, why do I continuously ask you that question? It is because I want to create a culture of ownership. I want each of us to take personal ownership of our grief journey, to really take responsibility. I know that I have been that person, whether it was dealing with grief or not. I didn't always take personal responsibility for things. A great example I can give you is that I have attended so many conferences in my life. I've attended many women's conferences. I've attended many leadership conferences, and I have taken notes after notes after notes. And I have journals full of notes and notes and notes. Ask me, have I gone back over all of those notes? No, I have not. So that means that I have not taken personal responsibility. I remember, when was it? Maybe a couple of years ago when a big conference was here. It was Pastor Sarah Jakes, Evolve, right? And that was the first time I believe she hosted it here in our hometown of Dallas, Texas area. I believe it was held in Arlington. And a lot of my friends were going. I had friends coming in from out of town and everybody was going. And people asked me, are you going? And I almost said yes, but the Holy Spirit arrested me, said, no, you're not going. I'm like, what do you mean? See, that's how he talks to me. I'm like, what do you mean I can't go? It's local. I don't have to pay for a hotel. I don't have to travel. I can scoot right over there to Arlington and come back home, as opposed to if it was out of state. And what the Lord shared with me is that you're not going to another conference until you master and take ownership of all that information that you got years ago. I said, well, all right, then I won't be going to Evolve. And I didn't. But from that moment, I started taking ownership of my life as it relates to information that I received. Okay. So that's why I'm asking you every month, what is it that you've done to take care of yourself? Because, as I always say, if you don't take care of you, who will? Who will? So for me, I always want to lead by example. What have I done since I saw you guys last? I've done my monthly therapy session. And listen, let me tell y'all, last month when I had the session, it was after I met with you guys. My therapist had me crying when I was leaving. I'm like, oh my Lord, I was crying. It was a good cry, though. It was a great discovery. You know that you're growing when you go to therapy, when you take new problems to your therapist versus the old problems. So, yeah, he had me crying. So that was a good thing, a great discovery that I had. And I've gone to the doctor. I've done that. And guess what else, y'all? Now, the people who've been following with us for years will appreciate this. I have been working out. Y'all clap for me in the chat. Listen, clap for me because that is major. I have been actually working out. I've been working out maybe about twice a week. Okay. And a friend of mine who is a guru at this, Tonya, knows. She exercises all the time. And I shared with her, I said, girl, I've been working out, worked out twice a week. Well, we need to get it up. I say, first of all, can you celebrate my twice a week? See, you need people who can celebrate where you are. Okay. So I celebrate where I am. That's exactly what I've done for myself. All right. So again, share with me, what have you done to take care of yourself? I'll be looking in the chat as we go on. So the handout, today's topic is identifying hidden grief, talking about losses beyond death. Losses beyond death. After working and serving in the death care industry for over 30 years, it has certainly afforded me the opportunity to accompany thousands of people upon thousands of people on their healing journey. And in doing so, I recognize again that most people don't understand what grief is. And when we don't understand the thing, we cannot apply the information about it. And one of the things that most people don't understand is that grief is not about death only, it is about loss of any kind. So, as a result of that, many people are in grief and it's hidden and they don't even recognize it. I love speaking with new potential clients and then helping them discover that they're in grief, not because of someone dying in their life, but because they were in grief because of what they lost as a child, what they lost as a teenager or even an adult. So that's what we're talking about. And if you can look at the handout, if you have it, if you've downloaded it, is a picture of a lady with a leaf in front of her face like this, where again, you can see through the leaf, but you can't see her face clearly. So that's what grief is like. Some of us don't understand what it is, but we know something is off in our lives. So we want to help you today identify some grief that may be hidden in your life. So we're going to start with the quote that says, so why are so many losses hidden away, ignored, and sadly accompanied by grief that is not acknowledged or talked about? I believe it is because grief up until the pandemic came in 2020 has been a taboo subject. It has been a subject that many people don't want to talk about. So that is why, again, so many losses are hidden. The truth is, as human beings, we have hundreds of losses throughout our lifetime, but we just don't understand it and we don't recognize it. So hopefully today, once we process through this handout, you will be more aware of the losses that have taken place in your life. So going to our handout, it talks about, it says the average person will experience, again, hundreds of losses throughout their lifetime. Just like as I just stated there, many people carry grief they don't even recognize, or they basically cannot put it into words. I remember one lady called me. She was a friend, actually. She and I went through divorce. She was married to a bishop. I was married to a pastor. And she called me one day and she'd say, "Hey, I'm feeling some type of way. I had to sell my car. And I keep going to the garage, and I know the garage is empty. The car is not there, but I'm feeling something. What is this?" I said, "Oh, that's grief." She said, "But it was a car." I'm like, "Yeah, but it was a car that was special to you. And it was a car that she had when she was in relationship, in marriage with her husband. So she had to sell the car, and that opened the door to grief." Okay. So she didn't even recognize that. And she couldn't even put it into words. Losses that feel invisible, emotions just too heavy to share, or pain that doesn't even fit society's definition of grief. So it is very important for us to learn how to express. Can you say that? Express. It is very important that we learn how to express grief that often goes unspoken, whether it's from the death of a loved one, the loss of a relationship, loss of your identity, dreams, or unresolved pain. Many of you have been following me on my journey, and you've heard me talk about in the very, very beginning, when I went through a divorce, I was a pastor's wife. And so going through the divorce, I was no longer a pastor's wife. That means that I didn't get a special seat at church anymore. Don't laugh. That was true. That was true for me. Listen, I had to get in where I fit in. I didn't have the special seat, so I had to really mourn the identity of not being a pastor's wife anymore. And now I'm so good. Thank you, Jesus. I'm just good being Tonya. I am just good being me. So grief, again, isn't always loud. It isn't. Sometimes it sits in the silence. Sometimes grief is unseen, it's unspoken. And here's the thing, it's misunderstood. Oftentimes, grief is misunderstood. Most people think that grief shows up through sadness and through crying. Not always. A lot of times, grief will show up in anger. It will show up in outburst. Okay? So many of us carry losses that don't fit the traditional definitions of grief, yet they weigh heavily on our hearts. So we must understand that grief is inevitable. At some point, everyone will experience it through some loss of any kind. Any loss can do what? It can open the door to grief, which is a natural part of our human experience. Grief is a natural part of our human experience. So, dealing with a significant loss can be one of the most difficult times in a person's life. While grief is universal, it is also unique, making everyone's experience deeply personal. Okay, even though we may have the similarity of an experience, that your mom died, my mom died, or I went through divorce, you went through divorce. Even though it's universal, how we navigate that experience, or even how we receive what's happening in that experience, is going to be unique. And the reason I like to say that is because a lot of people would like to give advice to people when they're going through grief. Well, my mama died too, and this is what I did. Well, what you did may not work for me. Okay? So, how you mourn one loss may be completely different from how you mourn another one. So, grief, it varies from person to person, from relationship to relationship, depth to depth, in duration, and its forum. So let's talk about, why do some people suppress and hide their grief? We're talking about identifying your hidden grief. But it's important for us to ask, why do some people suppress or even hide it? I hear this a lot. Many people suppress their grief and they hide it because they don't want to add pressure to other people. One reason is that people say, you're the strong one, so people depend on you to be the rock, so you put your grief aside. You're seen as the strong one. I was watching, if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to go watch it if you like things like this. Today at the Potter's House in Dallas, there was what we call a changing of the guards. And Bishop Jakes was turning the church over to his daughter, Sarah, and son-in-law, Teray. And one of the things that he shared, and I saw it from the standpoint of a therapist, he shared is that I would preach and preach and preach, and I would get so sick when I couldn't come to the church because I felt that somebody was going to need me. So this man is older now, and he's worked and worked and worked. He served and he served and he served in the church, and now he's tired. His body's breaking down. And if you've been following him, you'll know that he had a heart attack in November right on stage while preaching. So my mind thought today, he said, I just wanted to be here. Somebody was going to need me. I say, That means he had the super cape on, Superman cape from a natural standpoint. I get it. I have a pastor's heart. I love people. I love helping people through, but it shouldn't be to the detriment of myself. So some of you are the strong one in your family. Everybody calls you. Everybody calls you for money. Everybody calls you for answers. Okay? So that causes you to suppress and not deal with your own grief. You want to change that. If you've been following me any length of time, you've heard me say that true strength is the ability to express your emotions right in the middle of your crisis. So another reason why people suppress is the pressure to move on quickly. Society often pressures people to quote unquote get over grief, get over the loss instead of giving them space to process it. And sometimes the pressure is even self-induced. I have so many people I work with, and they treat grief like it's a checklist, something on the checklist. Okay, I had a couple of sessions. Okay, I came to one monthly grief symposium, check, and this should be over. First of all, let's remember that we never get over grief because grief never ends, but you do adjust to it. You do adjust to it. I did a grief support group at a funeral home last week, and it was 3 new families there. 3 new families, and one of the families, their son died. 28 years old, died unexpectedly, and the father and his wife came to grief support, and he owns a business. And I was sharing about bereavement and grief and how we should adjust some things in our marketplace. Because on the average, when you experience a death, bereavement time, you get 3 to 5 days, maybe 7. If you have a great supportive employer, they'll let you off for whatever time is needed. But this guy shared with me, he said, yeah, I felt that pressure to move on too, but since my son has died, I am going to revamp the policies and procedures within my company and give people more time so they won't have that pressure to move on. But that's one of the reasons why some people suppress and hide their grief. Another reason is you had a complex relationship with the deceased, if it's a death loss. And so when relationships are strained, meaning they are abusive, they're distant, you are estranged from that person, your grief can be mixed with relief. Your grief can be mixed with guilt or unresolved emotions. Some people hide or suppress their grief because they fear being judged by others. What will people think of me? Am I overreacting? And then lastly, the lack of language for the pain. Meaning I don't know how to explain what I feel. So since I don't know how to explain it, guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to suppress it. Okay? So when others expect you to grieve a certain way, this is what some people will ask you or say. Why aren't you crying? Or why are you still mourning? The person died a year ago. Are you still there? Or why are you laughing and having fun and your loved one died? Or why are you turning to your faith more? Or why aren't you turning to your faith more? Meaning, just pray more. You'll be fine. Just pray your way through it. All of these things will cause some people to suppress and hide their grief. So we're talking about understanding, identifying hidden grief. So the first thing we must understand that there are different types of losses beyond death. We know that there's a death loss, but again, loss comes in many, many forms. And hidden grief is also called disenfranchised grief. This happens when someone's pain is so unrecognized, it's minimized, and it's invalidated. Meaning these are losses that aren't openly acknowledged, not socially supported by the public, or not publicly mourned. This is what disenfranchised grief is. And unlike the death of a loved one, these losses, they go unnoticed. So when a person is dealing with disenfranchised grief, divorce can fall underneath that. It goes unnoticed. Most people don't understand the impact of divorce if they've never gone through it. A friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, she got divorced, I think maybe a year and a half after I did. She was married for 20 something years, about 25 years or more, something like that. And I remember when she was going through her divorce, she sent me a text one evening apologizing. And I'm asking, what are you apologizing for? She said, I'm so sorry. I had no idea of the pain that you endured when you were going through your divorce. I apologize that I wasn't a better friend. I wasn't as present and I wasn't as supportive. So disenfranchised grief, again, it hits a lot of losses. And what it does basically, when your loss is unnoticed, unrecognized, it can add another layer of pain, making it harder for you to really process and to heal. So our society basically overlooks these kinds of losses. Loss of identity. So how can someone lose their identity? Through retirement, a job change, empty nesting, trying to figure out, who am I now that my life is different? Because some of those losses, meaning or changes, is retirement, job change. Those can be for good. Those are happy occasions for the most part, unless you're forced to retire. I know one guy who was forced to retire because he had COVID brain. He had COVID during the pandemic, and his brain did not function the same anymore. He has what they call long COVID, long haul COVID, or long COVID, something like that. Meaning today in 2025, he is still experiencing the impact of COVID. So he had to retire because he was an accountant. He wasn't ready to retire. He wasn't positioned to retire. So that put him in grief. He's trying to figure out, who am I now without my job? So you have loss of relationships, be it a friendship that ends, estrangements, breakups, divorces, or grieving someone who is still alive. Many people are in grief right there because your relationship with your mom, your dad, your children, whomever, your special loved one, is estranged. Okay? You guys are estranged and they're still alive, and you're going to have to mourn that. You're going to have to mourn that. What about loss of stability? Loss of stability. What could go underneath that category? You have job loss, financial hardship, housing insecurity, or you're just displaced. That will open the door to grief. With the recent change in our administration in America, many people are losing their jobs. Many people are losing their homes because they lost their job. Okay? And so I have several clients that work for the government, and many of them are experiencing anxiety because another round of layoffs is getting ready to happen. Many people are not going to get the funding that they thought they were going to get. Okay? So that's loss of stability. That opens the door to grief. Let's talk about loss of health. All of these are different types of non-death losses that are hidden, meaning the grief can be hidden as a result of these losses. Loss of health, meaning you have a chronic illness. You look good on the outside, but on the inside, your health is failing and no one knows it. Have you ever been saw a person or judged a person who has a handicap sticker, a handicap placard, They park up front in the handicapped spots, but they get out walking like they're fine. And some people get angry with them like they're not handicapped. You don't know what their illness is. It may not always be visible. So we have, again, loss of health through chronic illness, medical diagnoses, physical limitations, or changes in your mental well-being. All of those are examples of loss of health. What about loss of safety, trauma, abuse, natural disasters, or the deconstruction of one's faith or beliefs? Have you ever thought or dreamed of something you thought this is going to be my life? You had an expectation and it didn't happen? Yeah, hidden grief can happen in that space. So the life that you envisioned, it didn't come to be. Listen, my life is nowhere where I envisioned it to be. Not at all. Okay? So grief can be experienced there. And then lastly, it talks about other deep losses such as miscarriages, infertility, abortion, pet loss, incarceration, or similar life altering experiences. All of these types of grief are real and they are valid. They are real and they are valid. So just because they are tied to a death, it doesn't mean, again, it makes it less painful. A lot of times it is hidden. So why is it why does it matter that you understand about this? Why does that matter? Because you can grieve deeply without even realizing it. So it matters that you understand what losses you've had in your life and that you must grieve that. Because you've heard me say before, those of you who follow, is that every loss demands a response. Every one of them. Every loss demands a response. So it matters that you understand. So when unacknowledged, grief may appear, listen to this, as anxiety. When grief is unacknowledged, it may appear as depression, irritability, numbness, or fatigue. So you can't figure out why you're always tired or why you're irritable. You're just going off on people. You're yelling for no reason. Perhaps there may be some hidden grief. Guess what else hidden grief does? It affects your emotional capacity, your mental, and your physical well-being. So this is why we're talking about this subject today, because it is so important to recognize all of your grief. So what are some signs that you may be carrying some hidden grief? Let's talk about some emotional indicators. Number one, you cry easily and you don't know why. Anybody ever been in that space? Like, I don't know why I'm crying. The tears are just coming. You're crying and you don't know why. Or this is where a lot of people will find themselves. You feel emotionally numb or you feel disconnected. Yeah. You feel numb or you feel disconnected, or you're easily triggered, or you are unusually sensitive. So when you're in grief, it will heighten your sensitivity. What do I mean by that? Whatever your loss was, or if it's a new one, your current loss is. For me, I can use divorce. That's an old loss. But during that time, I was so sensitive to divorce and anybody who went through that. So much so that when people would see me, when I finally came out of hiding, and I'd be in the grocery store or wherever, and people would say, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a long time." I say, "Hey, how you doing? You know I'm divorced, right?" I was telling complete strangers that I was divorced because I was so sensitive to it. So those are emotional indicators that you may have some hidden grief. What are some behavioral indicators that there may be some hidden grief? You avoid certain people, places, or conversations. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to deal with that. I was doing a presentation about a couple of months ago, and a lady in the audience, she shared that her niece died 20 years ago. Her niece died 20 years ago, and as a result of that, her brother and his wife ended up getting divorced because they just could not navigate the grief together. And so her brother processed well through the death of his daughter, but her now ex sister-in-law didn't. So it's 20 years later after this daughter died, and to date, that lady says that the mother will not allow anybody to talk about her daughter, won't mention her name. If anybody brings up her name or her life or even the death, the mother is going to exit the room and leave. So that's a great example. She's avoiding dealing with it. And that means she's actually stuck in her grief. You can get stuck in your grief. Okay. What is another behavioral indication that you may have some hidden grief? You're overworking, overthinking, or withdrawing. Overworking, having to be busy. That's one that's pretty popular that a lot of people in grief say, let me just keep busy. I'm good when I'm busy. But the moment that I don't have anything to do, that's when the thoughts start coming in. Okay. Another behavioral indicator is you're unexpectedly angry, irritable, or overwhelmed. So those are just a few signs and symptoms of indicators letting you know that there may be some hidden grief there. There may be some hidden grief. So I want you to ask yourself this question: what have I lost that no one knew about, no one celebrated, or even gave me space to grieve? Ask yourself, what is it that I have lost that nobody knew about, that nobody celebrated, or even gave me space to grieve? Okay? So these are things that will help you identify those hidden losses. Okay? So, anybody have any questions? If so, or any comments? I don't see any comments on Facebook. Are y'all out there? I see some of y'all on there. Can y'all at least say hi to me? Can you say hi? Don't leave me out here in these social media streets by myself. Can you say hi? Let me know how you're doing. Let us know if this information is helping you. Okay? So, recognizing hidden grief is the first step towards healing. Recognizing a thing. That is the first step towards healing. Okay? So let's get some steps to jumpstart your healing. The very first thing that you can do once you recognize that you have some hidden grief, like, oh, I haven't dealt with the loss of such and such. I've mourned this, but I haven't mourned that. The very first step towards healing is acceptance. Accept the fact that I haven't processed it yet. Okay? So acceptance. Hello there, Roy Jones. It's helpful. Thank you so much on YouTube. Thank you so much for sharing that. Said it's helpful. Appreciate you. Hello, Mama Carolyn. Glad to be here. Very helpful. Thank you, YouTubers. Appreciate you sharing that. Appreciate you sharing that. So we want to accept it. Okay? Acknowledging your grief without rushing the process. You got to stop rushing that process. Okay? I remember when I was going through the divorce, and I was looking at everybody around us. It looks like they were moving forward. Have you ever done that? That's called social comparison. You're looking at everybody else's life. Social media allows us to do that all the time. You know, we see what people post and we think all of that is real. It is not. What a lot of people post on social media is not real. No, people post what they want to be seen, right? We post what I want you to see. But I remember I was struggling, and I was talking to my therapist about it. And the therapist had to remind me, remember, they were just members of the church. You were the wife. So your process going through this grief is going to be totally different than theirs. Because I was trying to rush my process. I'm like, oh, I'm behind schedule. I should be further along than I am. Okay? So you cannot rush this process. For those of you who are watching for the first time, It takes up to 5 years after the loss to find your new normal. Up to 5 years. And that's only if you are participating in your healing. If you're doing the work to process through. The example that I just gave earlier about the lady whose daughter died 20 years ago and she refuses to talk about it. Okay. This is not applicable to her because she's not participating in her healing. She's stuck in her grief. But if you participate, start doing your work within 5 years or less, again, you'll find your new normal. So give yourself permission to grieve, to name it, even if other people don't validate it. That was something that I had to learn. Okay, even if other people don't recognize your grief, because every loss matters. So the first thing you got to do to help you heal is accept it. You got to accept this was where I am. My loved one died. I got divorced. I lost my job. I lost my car. My health is failing. Whatever that is, you got to be able to accept that. Next thing, it talks about a tribe or a community. Same thing. You got to find your tribe, seeking support, again, through groups such as this. Now, when you're dealing with online groups, be careful. Be careful. You want to make sure that it is a facilitated group, meaning they have someone who is skilled that can help navigate that space. Because a lot of times when we're in online spaces, social media gives everybody who wants an opportunity to speak, even if they shouldn't be speaking. People have platforms. People have these mics. They're going and buying all these things so that they can speak. Okay, so just be careful when you go in these spaces. I had one lady whose son died by suicide. She was a pastor's wife at the time. I didn't think he was 21 when he died. Son drove himself to their church, in their family vehicle, and he shot himself right there. Can you imagine going back to church week after week to the space where your son took his life, and this is a place that you have to worship? She would come to group every week, but then she was also looking for additional help to relieve the pain. So she got online in these spaces with support groups of mothers whose children died by suicide. And she finally shared that she was in that space. And she said, I said, how are you feeling when you come out of those online chats? She said, I feel anxious. I said, well, let's stay out of them. Let's stay out of that space. So just be careful when you're getting online support, but it can be helpful when you find the right space. You got to find your tribe through group settings, counseling, your friends, your family. Find a community where you can be honest about your grief, okay? Where you can be vulnerable. All of us need that space where you can be vulnerable and honest about your grief, because the reality is healing takes place in community. Okay? So what's the third thing you can do is have self-compassion. This is a huge one. Have self-compassion. Okay? Allowing yourself to grieve in your own way and your own time. Give yourself that permission. Take yourself off of the hook. Okay? Address self-judgment and societal pressure that tells you to move on too soon. Take your time. Okay? Because no one knows the pain that you are enduring. So you want to give yourself compassion. That was something that I had to learn to do as well. During these last, 13 years? That's the only amount of time that I've been on the healing journey as well. But I've been working and serving in the death care industry for over 30, maybe 35 years. But I wasn't applying this information to myself. Now I apply it. You got to have self-compassion, allowing yourself to grieve in your own way and in your own time. So I had to deal with my own self-judgment. Next thing you can do is to honor your loss. Honor your loss. Finding ways to remember, not get stuck. Finding ways to remember and not get stuck and cherish what was. The life that you had when your loved ones were here. You want to honor your loss by finding ways to remember, but not get stuck, and you want to cherish what was. Next thing you can do to help yourself along the way is break the silence. Break the silence. Understand how avoiding your grief can negatively impact your healing process. Avoiding your grief can impact you in a negative way. So break the silence. Talk about it. Grief shared is grief diminished. The more you share, the more your grief, meaning the pain of grief, will diminish. And you'll get to a point in life where you will be able to integrate meaning into your life. There's integration because grief never ends, but the pain of it does soften. So you start remembering your loss, be it a death loss or a non-death loss, with more love than pain. As you remember what was, when you're able to feel more love than pain, you are integrating and you are healing. And then lastly, another way to recognize hidden grief and take a step towards healing is to find your voice in grief. Find it. It's out there. You got to find your voice. How do you do that? Find practical ways to express your grief. Practical ways, such as the journaling. I call journaling mind dumping. Getting it out of here and putting it on paper. Notice I didn't say digital journaling, because healing and recovery, when it comes to a brain body connection, when we're writing, that's where healing takes place, because our brain and our body is connected. Journaling, talking, art, movement. All of these are just a few examples of finding your voice in grief. Finding your voice in grief. Okay? So again, what are some steps towards healing? Just a quick review. You want to deal with acceptance, find your community, self-compassion. You want to honor your loss. You want to break the silence. And then lastly, find your voice. Find your voice. Again, I've been in this industry for over 30 years, but I didn't find my voice until 13 years ago when I started doing the work after the divorce. That's when I started finding my voice and speaking about it. Okay? So how to hold space for grief. This takes skill, but more than skill, it simply takes patience and compassion. That's all. Everybody cannot hold space for your grief. They think they can, but a lot of people can't. Okay? How do you hold space for yourself? Number one, again, give yourself permission to grieve without shame. Grieve unapologetically. Grieve unapologetically. Set boundaries around unsupportive people. What do I mean? You're going to set those boundaries, and when it comes to people who don't support you where you are. Doesn't make them bad people, just means they don't have the capacity to walk with you on this journey in this way. That's okay. And recognize that grief has no expiration date. It doesn't. Because grief doesn't end. Remember what grief is. Grief is what happens on the inside of you. It's an emotional, internal chemical response. When we talk about chemicals, we're talking about hormones that are released within our body when we experience grief. So that never ends, but the pain of grief does. So that's how you hold space for yourself. But how do you hold space for other people? Be compassionate. Be a compassionate listener, meaning let people share without trying to fix them. I get asked quite often, how do I help my loved one? I know they're in grief, What do I need to do? I keep trying to tell them. I say, well, you can't make them. You can't make them go to counseling, come to the grief symposium. Again, you can encourage them, but we can't make anybody do anything. My mother used to make a statement, and now I get it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. We can't do it. Okay? So just let people be where they are without trying to fix them. Avoid saying things like, at least this, trying to cheer people up. Well, at least you're alive, or you should be over this by now. Your loved one died last year. Okay, avoid those kinds of spaces. You will cause people to put a wall up with you when you say those kinds of things. Just offer your presence, not your advice. It's called the ministry of presence. Just be there. You don't even have to say anything. Just be there. Send them a text every now and then. I'm thinking of you. Okay? So that's how you hold space for other people. And just know that healing doesn't mean, again, that you forget. It means you are integrating the loss into your life. Okay? In a way that allows you to move forward. You're integrating the loss into your life in a way that will help you move forward. So, what is your homework for today? You got a couple of things I want you to do. The very first thing I want you to do is list all of the losses that you have endured throughout your life. All of them, not just deaths, any kind of loss. And then next to it, I want you to write a few words that describe how it impacted you. Because there are some losses that we've had didn't impact me at all. Some deaths, some people died. I love them with the love of the Lord, but I didn't have any grief. Okay, because I didn't have a relationship with them. But write down every loss, significant loss, and how it impacted you. And this will help you find if you have some hidden grief, meaning if you haven't dealt with it or not. Once you identify how it's impacted you, then you can say, okay, I think I need to deal with this. I didn't even know that was still there. And then there is a hidden grief self-assessment. It's a quiz. I want you to take it. It has 10 questions, real easy. 10 questions. You can go ahead again, download it, just like the handout. You can download this assessment. It has 10 questions you're going to ask yourself, and then you're going to score it. The first question I'll read to you, it says, I find myself thinking a lot about situations, people, or experiences I've lost, but haven't talked about much. And then you'll just score yourself. And then the second page lets you know what your results are. If you have 0 to 10, that means hidden grief may not be a significant concern at this time, but occasional reflections can help you maintain emotional well-being. And then it goes up. The highest number, it says 31 to 40, it says you're likely carrying significant hidden grief. Seek professional help and create a plan for self-care. It's going to be things that's going to help you through that process. So take time to take the assessment, and it will definitely help you realize if you have some hidden grief. All right. So that is it for today. Do we have any questions? Anybody have any questions? If so, you can put them in the chat on YouTube and Facebook. Tell me a takeaway before Marie comes back and closes us out. What is a takeaway? What is something that you're going to take away with you today that you learned? Put it in the comment section for us and let us know what that is. As you are doing that, next month is May. And guess what? We are going to be in person. Yay! I'm so excited because I love seeing my Austin people. But most importantly, I go to Austin to rest. I really do. I enjoy myself when I go there. I go and I teach, but I also rest. I rest because I'm away from home. So if you're in the Austin area, come see us. We're going to be in person next month. And Miss Marie, she can kind of talk about that a little bit later. All right. So I don't see any comments in there on Facebook yet, nor YouTube. So I trust that this has been helpful to you. We hope it has. Until next month, I'll see y'all next time. Okay, your mic.
Can you hear me now? You can hear me now? Oh, I can't hear. Okay. So thank you, Dr. Cunningham, for helping us to identify hidden grief. One of the things I was listening to when you were talking about taking ownership, and I was thinking about you were saying we're taking ownership and doing our grief work. You come on and you ask us, what did we do, since you saw us the last time? So one of the things that I thought about is uh, I have joined a group at the church. It's called the Touch of Joy group. And the reason why I went and joined it, we had a client who we were servicing, and they had went all the way through the process. And the one thing they told me was, said, you know what, we were members of the church and we never heard anything from the church. And they were one of those members who wasn't one of those real active members, but and I got concerned, so I went to that Touch of Joy group and I told them, I said, okay, I want to join the group. So if there's somebody that haven't heard from anybody from church, I don't have a problem calling and say, hey, we're from the church, we're sorry for your loss, and just
Mhm.
say something to them, because they were really hurt that
Yep.
they had not heard anything from anybody from the church. So I had joined their group. And the thing, we had just this past week, we had a Touch of Joy meeting. And the thing was, we talked about caregiving. And we wanted to go to a point where we wanted to have the talk with your family member to help you, when that time comes, to it eases the pain. So,
Mhm.
okay, so what do you do? What is it that you want to happen, at that time?
Mhm.
So what I did was I interviewed Barry. I said, well, I'm just gonna go and interview. And Barry and I, we had the talk before, but you know
Mhm.
how you just talk about it. But when I interviewed it, I wrote it down, and I was listening. You said how you said pour it out, write it down, where you can go back and listen to it, go back and read over it. So Barry and I, we had the conversation, and I picked up on some of the things, like I heard him say that, but let me write it down. So when that time, if that time comes, when that time comes, I
Mhm.
can go back, and pull that out and refer to it that at that point. So
Very good.
yeah. So the other thing I want to talk about, you were talking about when you have a loss, supporting the person where they are. So I
Yes.
thought about my loss with Prada. My puppy Prada died, and I
Mhm.
still have people going, "When are you gonna get another puppy? When you?" And I'm still at that point where I'm not ready yet.
Mhm.
So I'm like at the point, it's like people support me where I am right now, because right now I am not ready.
That's right. That's right. Wow, interesting. I almost sent a picture to you and I said, I'll wait. Google photos this week, a picture popped up with me and Prada. And I say,
Oh,
oh,
I love
look at
those
her.
pictures. I love those pictures.
You love those?
I
Okay.
love those pictures, but it's that point where people say, "Well, you need to go ahead and get another puppy. Well, you
No,
need to do this, you need that." And I'm like, I'm not there yet, y'all. But
that's right.
I'm working on it. I
Good for
am
you. You
working on
set
it.
your boundaries. So that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I did. I did. And again, you were saying, okay, next month we will be in person. Yay! Yeah. And so, for those of you who have not ever been with us in person, we will be at the Travis County Precinct 1 on Heflin Lane. We will also still be online. So those of you who want to come in person, come meet us in person. Those of you who want to come online, just go ahead and be online. And I think that's all we have. You have
Before
something?
you dismiss, I saw a lot of people, several people making comments. Hello, Awanda Wade, my friend.
Oh,
Good to see you. Um, Sophia Yarbrough said that this has been helpful. Hello, Wanda Henderson. Good to see you. Hello, nephew James. Good to see you as well. Wanda said it was good information. Hey, Pinky. Glad that you were here as well. Awesome. Let's see. And Wanda said she's joining. How do I get the assessment? You can look on in the description area, and there's a link where you can download it. So Wanda, you'll find the handout as well as the assessment there. Okay, on Facebook where it has a description, you'll see it there. All right. So thank you. Let's see on YouTube. Roy Jones said grief takes time and have compassion for yourself. So that's your takeaway. Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you all. I saw your takeaways. Appreciate that. So remember, you want to apply, do something this week, starting today to take care of yourself. Okay. Thanks, Marie. I'm sorry.
All right, we're you're good. We're fine. Thank you guys, and we will see you all next month. Bye bye.
Bye.